Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hey, friends. Welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am LaShawn, your host. And friends, I did it. I completed my half marathon at the Wine and Disney weekend at Disney World last weekend. Ran through Epcot and saw Hollywood Studios and a lot of roads. It was humid. It was long. And friends, I think me and my knees are done running anything over a 10K, but don't hold me to that because I was watching the New York City Marathon footage and I felt inspired and I wanted to be a part of the party. But then I stood up like right after watching one of those videos and my knee was like, girl, no, girl, hell no. So I think I'm done for now. Let's just put it like that. So I think for now, I'm going to be sticking to my 10Ks and those roads and those rivers that I'm used to, which is 5 to 10K. Long distance running, I think, is not in my near future, but I'm never going to say never because I've learned that I don't mean it when I say it. Anyway, it was a fun weekend. My friend Carly and I spent the weekend basically eating our way through the parks, taking photos, doing Disney things that adults do at Disney without kids, which really means we ate our way through the park. That's really good. And then we strolled leisurely throughout the park. We took pictures without anyone saying you're taking too long. We just enjoyed ourselves. I watched the parade. I stood there waiting for the parade and no one told me why we had to sit here and wait. It was glorious just to do these things by myself. I did not get on one single ride. I meant to, but my knees at that point, I really just wanted to get on the teacups. But my knees at that point was like, girl, we can't squeeze into there and then be expected to unfold and get out. So I left it alone and I am perfectly fine with that. If it hadn't been so hot and I still hadn't been so sore from the run, like I said, I probably would have made my way to a few. Like, yeah, I would have made my way to a few, but child, next time, because knowing me and my friends and my family, there will be a next time. But anyway, here it is, November already. And friends, that means it's time to talk about what I read last month in October and what is on my radar for November and December. I decided to include December because December is a slow publishing month and I looked and there's like some random romance novels on there that I might be excited about or interested in, but they're not the most. And so there was really only one book in December that I had to make sure I talked about. And so I am going to include them in this episode. So let's get into what I read in October. In October, I read 10 books. Overwhelmingly, I enjoyed almost every book but one, which I wasn't going to talk about, but I think I will because I keep seeing it all over Book Talk and Bookstagram. And there is a lesson there that I'm going to talk about later. But I'm going to pick 5 out of the 10 and talk about those 5 today. Let's go ahead and talk about Alchemize by Sin Lin Yu. I know I talked about this one like way back in the beginning of the month. I think I talked about this one in September. I finished it in October. So let's just get into the premise and then I'll tell you what I thought. Okay, the premise. Once a gifted alchemist, Helena Morano is now a captive of Palladia's corrupt necromancers after the resistance fall. With her power suppressed and her memories erased, she's believed to be insignificant, yet her lost past may conceal the key to the resistance' final plan. Sent to the ruthless High Reeve to recover what she's forgotten, Helena uncovers dark secrets within her prison and herself. To survive, she must reclaim her identity and her truth buried in her mind before it destroys her and the fragile world left behind. Let's talk about my review. Now, I did not read Manacled, which is the fan fiction that this book is based on, before I read this one, and I frankly have no plans to read it at all. Before I get started, I must say, please, for the love of all things, read the trigger warnings before you even think about reading this book, which is odd because the trigger warnings are actually in the back of the book. Flip to the back and read the trigger warnings, or find them online on something like the Storygraph, which always lists the trigger warnings for a book if you are looking for them. Okay, let's get into my honest review here. While reading part one, I almost DNF'd this book, but I persisted because I had to believe that it got better because it was horrible. And it kind of did. Kind of. You can analyze this book and say that is the story of survival and the psychological cost of war. For me, I think the remarkable part of this book was that I wanted to keep reading it despite part one, which is literally horrific to me. I know it was bad. It was bad. But the journey back to Helena's mind is a complex one that leads us through a story that I had to keep coming back to. I had to keep coming back. It was like I was compelled. I would put it down and be like, this is just too much. But then I had to pick it back up because I had to know how was this going to end. And I always say that is the mark of a good writer. I admit that I had to step away from it, like I said, several times because this is dark, like down to the depths of hell dark, friends. I initially denied to anyone who asked that this was a romance, but it's so much more than that. It's what can happen when love and the cost of war meet, when it's forged in the deepest and darkest of circumstances, I guess you can say. I won't read this again, like ever. I'm not going to put the book in the giveaway pile. I'm going to keep it, but I can't see myself wanting to read this again, or maybe I'll skip part one and just skip to part two since I already know what happened then. But I'm glad I read it. I did give this a 4 out of 5, and I took a whole star off of part one of this book. I understand now how we got there, but I was literally traumatized for both of our main characters for the rest of the book after reading part one. So, yeah. Now, the second book I want to talk about is And Now Back to You by B.K. Morrison. The premise: rival meteorologists Jackson Clark and Delilah Stewart couldn't be more different. He's all structure, she's all chaos. Forced to team up to cover the storm of the century, they strike a deal. He'll help her prove herself as a journalist, and she'll help him rediscover his spark. As their bickering turns to banter and friendship, and then the friendship deepens into something more, Jackson and Delilah must discover if their connection can survive beyond the mountains or if it will be swept away with the storm. So dramatic. Here's what I thought. This was the absolute cutest book. It was so cozy. I love a B.K. Morrison book in the first place. Her Christmas Farm series was good to me. I really liked the second and the very last book of that series, I think, especially the last book. The last book was my favorite. It was so, but anyway, back to this one. This one book was so cozy. The characters were so lovable, and I adored everyone. And we get a repeat appearance from some of the characters from the first book in this kind of series. It can stand alone, but it helps if you know some of the characters from the other ones. Our main characters are two meteorologists. Like I said, the fun-loving Jackson and the spontaneous Delilah. Their chemistry intensifies because, of course, there's only one bed in one of these scenarios. And their rivalry, of course, evolves into such a sweet, cozy romance that I literally couldn't put it down. It was so, so cute. I gave it a 4 out of 5. The next book that I read last month was Mate by Allie Hazelwood. Let's get into the premise. Serena Paris, the first human-were hybrid, was meant to unite the divided species, but instead she's become a target in a deadly power struggle between wares, vampires, and humans. Hunted and alone, she turns to Cohen Alexander, the commanding alpha of the Northwest Pack, who also happens to be her mate, for protection. Determined to keep her safe, Cohen will face any enemy, even Serena's dangerous past, when it resurfaces. With betrayal and bloodshed closing in, their bond may be the only thing strong enough to save her from annihilation. My thoughts, listen. I don't know what Allie Hazelwood puts in her books, some type of reader crack, because I literally can't put them down. I read every last one of her books quickly, efficiently. I devour them like they are handfuls of candy corn. And I love this book so much. I loved it more than I loved Bride. Bride, I admit, had to grow on me. I loved it in the end, but this one, right from the beginning, I loved the sarcasm, the tension, the grumpy, sarcastic connection. It was just perfection. It was so good. It was just spicy enough. There are two chapters full of spice towards the end of the book. Of the chapters is a full on chapter of nothing else but spice. It's spicy, but it's good. It's good. It's worth the wait. But the longing and the relationship is everything. Getting up to that part, I truly and thoroughly enjoyed myself with this book, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. The last book on my list is Dominion by Addie Kitchens. I talked about this one last episode, but since it's going on my top of the books of the year list, I wanted to remind you of it just in case you missed last week's episode. The premise. In Dominion, Mississippi, Reverend Sabry Winfrey Jr. rules his town, his church, and his family with power disguised as righteousness. His youngest son, Wonder Boy, is the pride of the community until an unexpected encounter forces him to question everything he's been taught. As secrets unravel and shame ripples through the Winfrey family, the women who love them, Priscilla and Diamond, witness the devastating cost of silence, pride, and control. Told through their eyes, Dominion exposes the tangled web of faith, patriarchy, and fear that binds the community and the courage it takes to break free. I've had an arc of this book since this summer and kept meaning to read it. And I kept getting distracted, as I do, by other books, new releases, blah, blah, blah. But the book is only 240 pages, so it was a quick, good read when I finally picked it up. Literally, once I got to chapter 2, I could not put it down. I was obsessed for the rest of the day. If you are Southern and you have a familiarity with small towns and Southern church culture, specifically Black Southern church culture, this book will make perfect sense for you. The church dynamics combined with the power imbalances between the men and the women, and a culture when men are the prize, no matter how bad they are, is really the central theme here. From teenage Diamond, who is already at 17, trained and ready to keep Wonder's secrets and defend him no matter what, to the First Lady Priscilla, knowing and understanding that her role has always been the same for her husband and her male children. It is perfection. This book was so, so good. Like 5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it's going on my top books of the year list, and it's going to be in the top 3, really. The next book on my list is called Warrior Princess Assassin by Bridget Kimmerer. This is her adult fantasy debut. 3 fates intertwine, and amid magic, betrayal, and desire, Princess Jury must marry ruthless warrior King Maddox Kyrion to save their kingdoms, while hiding that her family's magic is fading. Kai, desperate to restore his burning land, conceals a dangerous secret of his own, and Asher, Jory's childhood friend turned assassin, is sent to kill them both. As duty clashes with love and loyalty, all 3 are forced to choose between passion and survival before the truth consumes them all. Now, I did not enjoy this one. I did not like the throuple, I guess you can say, even though, I didn't like that. I felt like the relationship between the 3 of them was not completely fleshed out. The childhood friends loved each other, but the new husband is attracted to them both. And the assassin, who is one of the childhood friends, is damaged, I guess you could say. He's been through a lot. He's traumatized. He's done a lot to survive. And the princess annoyed the hell out of me. Like, maybe if I liked her more, I might have liked the relationship between the 3 of them better. As it seemed forced for the book. I don't know how to put it, but I felt like it was too much going on. And it developed, I didn't like the way it developed. This is the beginning of a trilogy, and it ended on somewhat of a cliffhanger. And I can see where the trilogy might go and how these characters will probably grow and get fleshed out as the trilogy continues. But unfortunately, I'm not interested. I gave this a 2.5 out of 3. This is the lowest I've given a book in a long time. But I was really, the way it was talked about online with Book Talk and Bookstagram, I was like, oh, even though I'm not into threesomes in my books, I don't like Why Choose. It's just not for me. And that is the beauty of the book world. There is literally something for everyone. Like, not every dark romance is for me because some of them are a bit too much for me. And that's somebody who is not approved, but sometimes, some everything ain't for everybody. And I have accepted that. But sometimes I'm willing to give books a try. Like, I was willing to give this one a try because it seemed sweet. It seemed like it was going to work well because people who I usually trust were really liking this book. And yeah, no, it wasn't for me. And this was a lesson to me that BookTok and Bookstagram, listen to your gut. If it's not something you usually read, sometimes you just got to let that go. Okay. Okay. So now that I've talked about what I've read, let's talk about what's on my radar for November and December. All right. The first book that I want to talk about is Cursed Daughters by Oyinkan Braithwaite. Now, this is a Read with Jenna book club pick and the second novel of the author of My Sister is a Serial Killer, which was literally one of the most chaotic books I've ever read. But anyway, let's get into the premise. When Ibon gives birth to Iniji on the day her cousin Monife is buried, the family believes Monife has been reborn in the child destined to repeat her tragic fate. Bound by generational curse that drives men from their home, 3 generations of Faladan women live with heartbreak and abandonment. When Iniji falls for a boy she saves from drowning, she confronts her family's dark legacy, seeking answers in the spiritual depths of life. To find peace, she must decide whether to surrender to destiny or finally break the cycle of loss and silent haunting of her bloodline. I've heard good things about this book. It's been on a lot of anticipated book lists. I've heard a couple of podcasters mention it. I've seen posts written about it. So even though the last book I read by her was, like I said, it was chaotic. I am interested in this one. It's on my to be read list, but I'm not in a hurry to get to it. Mainly because my to be read list overfloweth, but that we'll get into that another day. The next book that is on my list, and that one was out Tuesday, 11/4. The next book on my list is I, Medusa by Ayana Gray, which is out November 18th. This is a Medusa origin story. The Medusa from Myths, the one with snakes in her hair and can turn you into stone with just a look. If you're not familiar with her, go research a bit of Greek mythology. Her, Perseus, Andromeda, Zeus. It's a whole thing. You see them in the sky. Anyway, go look it up. Go watch Clash of the Titans, the original one, not the remake. But anyway, Medi, overshadowed by her immortal sisters and minor god parents, longs for a life beyond her island. When Athena invites her to train as a priestess in Athens, Medi eagerly seizes the chance to find purpose and freedom. But her bright future darkens when Poseidon's attentions leads to a cruel punishment. Her locks transformed into snakes for a crime she didn't commit. Reborn as Medusa, she must redefine herself not only as a victim, but as a force of vengeance and power determined to reclaim her story and transform her suffering into legend. I have always loved Greek mythology, and so this book is like a must read for me, and I cannot wait to get into it. I have my copy. I just need to read it. It's again on my very, very long TBR. The next book on my list for November, and now I'm looking at this, most of the books on this list are fantasy or romantasy. No, they're not. There's a couple more. Anyway, let's get back to this. And the next book on my list is Brimstone by Callie Hart, which comes out on the 18th. Sarah's Fane never wanted to wear a crown, but now that she wears one, the weight of her crown and her throne could crush her. As Queen of the Blood Court, her power is both her armor and her cage. Torn between duty to her realm and the impossible pull of home, Ceres faces a deadly truth. The very land that birthed her could destroy her. Meanwhile, Kingfisher of the Azure Gate has his own battle, surviving a mission through treacherous city streets with the insufferably talkative Carrion Swift. When shadows rise and secrets unravel, Ceres and Fisher must cross fire, deception, and destiny itself to save their world and save each other. I luckily discovered the first book in this series earlier this year, so did not have to wait long for this one. I hope it is as good as the first one because I have been anticipating this one, and this is the only book I'm allowing myself to buy this month. The only book. The only book. So I hope it's good. I hope it's worth the wait. The next book on my list is Who Knows You. The next book on my list is Who Knows You by Heart by CJ Farley, and it comes out 11/11. Octavia Crenshaw is done playing by the rules. A Jamaican American coder barely keeping afloat in Manhattan, she jumps at the chance to work for Eustachian Inc., a glittering big tech empire promising innovation, connection, and a paycheck big enough to erase her debts. But behind the company's polished facade lies whispers of something darker. Strange glitches, secret floors, and a project that could change everything. When she's recruited by the brilliant, maddeningly charming Wildcott to help create Zion, an AI designed to tell stories free of bias, Octavia starts to believe in a new kind of future until they uncover the truth too dangerous to ignore. Now, the code they wrote to liberate minds might be the key to their undoing. I love this. It sounds speculative fictionish, with a touch of realism, with a touch of modern, fears that we all should have about AI. So that one is too on my list. The last book on my list of books that I am looking forward to, this one comes out in December and it is called Bloom How You Must by Tara Pringle Jefferson. Full disclosure, I've known Tara for a very long time and I am absolutely thrilled that she has written this book. I have my copy and I'm set to dive in right around Thanksgiving. And let me tell you what it's about. Self-care has always been a part of Black women's survival story, from Coretta Scott King's Girls Trips with Betty Shabazz and Marilee Evers Williams to Rosa Parks' yoga practice, Toni Morrison's Thriving Gardens, and Audre Lorde's powerful reminder that self-preservation is an act of political warfare. Care has always been our inheritance. In Bloom How You Must, the author reclaims this lineage, exploring how self-care and community care have sustained generations of Black women. Blending research, personal stories, and practical exercises, she offers a blueprint for healing, reflection, and joy. A guidebook and journal in one, Bloom How You Must is a love letter to every Black woman ready to reclaim rest, nurture her well-being, and bloom on her own terms. Like I said, cannot wait to read this one. I think it's going to be one of my morning books. I usually like to read self-help or inspirational works first thing in the morning. I tend to read slower at this time, and I feel like it is a great way to absorb a book like this. Now, let's talk about what's currently on my reading list right now, what I've been doing. I just finished reading Angel's Kiss by Nalani Singh. This is the second book. I believe, in a 15-book series. Yes, you heard me, 15 books. The very last book of the series is going to be published next year. The author has announced. So I decided after many, many years to go back and read the entire series. The first book came out in 2011. I don't think I discovered it in 2011, but sometimes in between that and the pandemic, because I remember reading the rest of them during the pandemic up until like 2021. Then I think there were more books after that. But now, like I said, I'm going back and rereading all of them. They are so, so good. It is paranormal romance. There's angels, there's vampires, there are humans. It is very good. It's very good. And I am so sad to see the series ending, but I am so looking forward to my rereads and getting to know these characters again. The series, like I said, is based on a world in which there are angels who create vampires, and then the hunters who hunt the vampires that go rogue from the angels. And our series begins when Elena, a guild hunter, is hired by the head of the angels, the archangel of the New York territory, to solve a case of a rogue archangel. She falls in love with the archangel of New York and meantime becomes an angel herself by the end of the series. I will let you find out how by reading it. The series, in the beginning, you read it and you got to remember that it was not written in modern times. So the main male character can seem very overbearing, but what I love about him is as you read the series, you see how he changes because of her, and I love it. The series follows the two of them through wars and love, and all the side characters get their own books too, which is one of the best parts because One of my favorite side characters got not one, but two books, and I love that for him. And I highly recommend the entire series. Like, read one a month for the next year, and you won't be disappointed. I am currently doing a tandem read of Dating at the End of the World by Geneva Rose. Let's talk about it. Casey Pearson grew up with a doomsday prepping father. At 18, tired of living an unconventional life, she left home, vowing never to return. More than a decade later, a mysterious viral outbreak changes everything, including the people it infects, turning them into zombie like creatures. It's the end of the world that no one saw coming, except for Casey's father. With no place left to run and danger lurking around every corner, Casey is forced to return home. Upon arrival, she's surprised to find that her dad has hunkered down with a group of survivors, including her arch nemesis, Blake Morrison, the high school bully who made Casey's teenage years a living hell. While struggling to live on the compound, face outside threats, and survive alongside her handsome enemy, Casey will learn that although the world has ended, hers is just beginning. I really don't know why I picked up this book. I was bored, and instead of reading what I had, I saw it was on Kindle Unlimited and Audible as one of those dual picks, where you can listen and read at the same time, and I downloaded it. I was unprepared. I thought it was a love story, like, enemies to lovers type thing, but I should have known better because of Geneva Rose. She wrote The Perfect Marriage, and the book definitely had me screaming at certain parts because I was like, what am I reading? I was not expecting it. I don't think I read the premise well enough because I was not expecting the song. I was not expecting how they showed up. I am having a good time. Review soon to come. Next up on my list is going to be Son of the Morning by Akweki Amenze. It is out on November 4th, and I have an arc for the ebook and the audiobook. So again, I will be starting both of them when I am done with this one. I do love a good tandem read, y'all. It is like one of my best things that I have started doing this year in my reading life. Love to listen to a book while I'm doing tasks around the house, like cleaning and cooking, and driving. And then I love settling down at the end of the day with the actual book and reading it. And it is literally one of my favorite things. Anyway, the premise. Gailey Kincaid, raised by a powerful clan of Black women, has always felt an emptiness tied to a secret about her existence. When she meets Lucifer Hale, posing as a security chief, she realizes he's not human and then learns she isn't either. As Lucifer's ally, Leviathan, seeks to destroy her, hidden Kincaid secrets collide with the powers of hell and heaven. Torn between destiny and danger, Gailey must choose between whether to embrace her true nature, even if it shatters everything she knows. I love this author and will literally read anything they will write. I'm going to start by saying I love this author. They are literally one of my favorites across all genres because they write them all and they write them all well. I, at this point, will literally read anything that they write. And so I'm really looking forward to their first foray into romantasy. And I love that there are Black characters. Okay. All right, because we need more Black characters in our romantasy books. Anyway, that is all I have for you today, friends. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us grow and find other bookish friends. If you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com. And you can also connect with me on my personal IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wiltz. Thank you again for listening. I will talk to you soon, friends. Bye-bye.